let's see. Yeah, gotta get to the square root, also the fractions, common denominator, blah, 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 golden ratio. Look, I like math homework as much as the next guy, and having to do it in a journal is a little bit obnoxious, but maybe we can add some excitement to this with a little bit of magic. Hey, Cody. Hey, Cody.
Yeah, what do you want?
Can you, make this a little bit more entertaining for us?
Okay, let's see it.
Gonna throw this book. Let's see what happens, okay? Cody, ready to do it? Let's do it. Okay, what are we gonna get? What are we going to get?
How about this? Not too bad, huh?
Cody? That's a really big
That's
thing.
what you asked for.
Are you sure that's a good idea? Hello everybody, and welcome to the Brewing Labs. Now for this episode, as stated by the little intro skit, we're actually making a deck rotated around Codie Vociferous Codits. I could be totally pronouncing that wrong.
Vociferous.
But for those who don't know, Codie is a free mana 1/4, you can't cast permanent spells. We'll get to that in a minute. But it also has an ability of tap 4 and add Wooburg. When you cast your net spell essentially has Cascade, essentially. So if you cast a 5-cost spell, you can reveal cards until you get like a 4-cost spell and cast that for free, more or less. So for this deck design, I decided you might notice that there's a few non-spell cards, aka permanents, in the deck. Stuff like Goldspan Dragon as well as Torrent Sculptor. We're going to get to that in a minute, but and also Retriever Phoenix, but I kind of want to talk about my journey of trying to design around Codie. And it's kind of a thing of a revelation that I kind of told Twitter about, essentially, but I thought it would be best to put it in video form. And I'm just going to say it. Trying to make a whole deck around Codie is a bit of a trap. Like, it's not a bad trap, like, it's a fun deck to try to make an only spell-oriented deck design. But I feel like it's better to actually treat Codie like a package, where if you can keep it on the battlefield, you get some extra spell value, perfectly great. But there's going to be some times where this is just a free mana 1/4 that blocks aggro and just eats a removal spell. And I feel like if you accommodate to your deck design to accommodate for just that fact, I think you'll be perfectly fine. And that's kind of what we did with this deck. Of course, our deck does have a high majority of instant sorcery spells. We're running stuff like First Day of Class, mostly because we have a token generation sub-strategy within our deck design, especially if we use Codie to cast any of our token generation spells. Being able to cast this for free before we cast a token generation spell, being able to get a learn card, as well as give our token haste and a +1/+1 counter, very, very nice. We also have Divide by Zero, just a great tempo play, as well as a good learn card, allows us to return really problematic permanents, or spells on the stack, and then essentially be able to, more or less, get essentially a good learn card, which we'll talk about the learn package in a minute. We also have Prismari Command as well as Quandra's Command since we're in the Temur colors. These are just very versatile spells, very powerful early game spells that we don't mind getting from Codie or casting with Codie if we get a First Day of Class, like Quandra's Command, perfectly fine. And First Day of Class, there are going to be some times where you just use it to fetch a learn card, and that's perfectly fine. That's like the lowest case scenario. Then we have Codie, which allows us to cast some of our high-cost spells. So we're going to go all the way to the high cost to show some of the high-cost spells we don't mind casting with Codie. Magma Opus is one of them. Very powerful tempo spell, being able to deal 4 damage, used as a sometimes even a semi-board wipe against some aggro matchups, or just remove a very problematic creature. Tap down some creatures, make a token, and draw some cards. Great. And even we can discard it early, which we don't mind, to actually generate treasure tokens, which generating a treasure token is actually very nifty in this deck design. We also have Alrund's Epiphany because, well, if you're playing blue, you're kind of playing this card. It's a very powerful card. Extra turn is really nice. Getting the tokens is perfect for our deck design. Very great card. And then we have probably one of my favorite cards that I've been brewing around when doing this Codie Treasure Vault kind of deck design, which is True Polymorph. True Polymorph is kind of the MVP of this deck. Like, I'm so tempted to go down to like 2 orange epiphanies and just make free true polymorphs, but I figured the split here is actually a lot more logical for our mana curve. But true polymorph is just a very, very versatile card. To put it in perspective, it can make any of our treasure tokens, and even treasure vault, so keep that in mind, any of our tokens into kind of like powerful threats late game, which we're going to talk about that once we get into a mid-range package. But also true polymorph can be used for more of the trolly aspects, such as the fact that we can use it with Codie to transform one of our opponent's creatures into Codie, and if their deck is majority permanent base, we kind of shut down their entire deck, which is kind of absurd. But there's even some circumstances where if we need to play a permanent, we could just use true polymorph at the end of their turn, transform into one of their creatures, and then be able to play our Retriever Phoenix, as well as Goldspan Dragon, which is our only other permanents in the deck because they're just powerful cards. Very nifty, we'll explain to that in a minute, but yeah. And then even just using true polymorph, like there's a variety of circumstances to show off. Like maybe you have an extra treasure token that you don't need, transforming it into a creature. Very nice. Maybe your opponent played a very problematic permanent. Boom, transform it into a treasure token or even a treasure vault. It's just so much versatility with this card. I hope I can show it off with this video, but there's some shenanigans with this card. So now we're going to talk about a little bit of the mid-range package here. Going backwards, we got Goldspan Dragon. Mostly this is a very powerful card within the standard 2020 format. Very powerful dragon, just being able to generate treasure tokens, very nifty for our deck design. It's also just a 5-mana 4/4 with haste. We also have Retriever Phoenix. This is also a good learn card to help us get cards from our learn sideboard, as well as whenever we cast learn spells, which we have a majority of them in the deck, just being able to bring this back allows us to keep permanents on the battlefield. And then we have Torrent Sculptor, which basically is in here because we can use the Flamethrower Sonata side, which for those who don't know, Flamethrower Sonata, when on a red, discard a card and draw a card. When you discard an instant sorcery card this way, Flamethrower deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Very simple. This is our semi-removal. Also can throw cards in the graveyard if we need to throw them in the graveyard, and it's instant sorcery. Be able to deal inwards between 2 to 3 to even 8 damage to a very problematic creature. Very nice. Plus, it's also a theme that if we get it from Codie, we don't mind because we can use it as removal. And oh no, we can't even get it from Codie because that's the reason why I put it in the deck. Having a brain fart there. It's a little bit late. I was working overtime, so my apologies there. But yeah, I put this in here so it doesn't get fetched by Codie, which is really, really nice. It's one of the early game spells that we can cast as a late game creature, which is very nice, with counters on it, which is important with our deck design. As well as Serpentine Curve. We don't mind spells that are in the graveyard or get exiled. It makes it into a very big fractal token, which, one of our main game plans is using True Polymorph. Remember, fractal tokens are 0/0s, as you can see right there. So we can, if we have a flyer and a fractal in the battlefield, we can use True Polymorph to turn the fractal token, or even sometimes a Torrent Sculptor, into a ridiculously big threat with evasion and win the game. Very, very nice. We also have Behold the Multiverse, just a good foretell card as well as just a good card draw engine. And one of my pet favorite cards, Bala Ged Recovery. Due to the fact that we have a high amount of free drops in the deck, you don't know how many times that I turn sit, Bala Ged Recovery, and cast a tempo spell that I needed and such, because that's just the perfect value of this card. I love this card. It's kind of one of my pet cards in Commander, and it's just very, very powerful in this deck. Our land base, we have 2 Hall of the Storm Giants, just a good late game man land, 2 islands, 1 mountain, 2 forests, 4 Frostboil Snarls, as well as 4 Vine Glimmer Snarls to help with the team or color base. We also have 1 Volatile I am going to butcher that name. We have 2 Highland Forests and 1 Rimewood Falls, as well as free Treasure Vaults, which is just in here to generate tokens, as well as just being something that we can transform with True Polymorph. Like, sometimes you can just use this as a one-way ticket to make a man land by just transforming one of your opponent's best creatures out of your Treasure Vault, or vice versa if you need to remove it. So that is the deck, but as for the lesson sideboard, it's kind of your typical lesson package. We have 1 Environmental Science, 1 Containment Breach, 1 Pest Summonings for token generation, 1 Introduction to Annihilation, 2 Mascot Exhibitions to make our board white, and then we put 1 Fractal Summoning, because later in the game, if we can make a really big Fractal token and do the game plan strategy of using True Polymorph to make one of our flyers into a Fractal, or even sometimes making a Torrent Sculptor, a fractal token to a Torrent Sculptor is a perfectly good late game threat. And that is Codie token fun. So let's play a few games with the deck and see what shenanigans are abound. Okay, let's see who our first opponent is. So our first opponent is John Kahn, eh? Interesting rhyme of the time. Well proved, considering my username. Anyway, this hand is pretty decent. We can just play the Frostball Star Island and then remove something if we need to remove it. We can even generate a treasure token to help us get in curve into Goldspan Dragon. Pretty decent hand. Gonna keep it. So we're gonna play our Snarl. See what our opponent plays here. Okay. I expect... Yep, Goblins. Okay, here... We could just foretell this turn, but I think the plan here is to... If we foretell the next turn, we could just play the Balagate Recovery or draw into... You know what? Actually, I convinced myself. I think it's better to foretell this turn. That way, then, we could try to draw into an untapped mana source if necessary. Or, if we need to, remove this problematic threat off the board, which I do not mind whatsoever. But how do I do it? Do I want to remove that? I think the answer is yes. So, I'm going to cast Flameful Sonata. We're going to discard, in this case, the Magma Opus, because we can get it later with Balaget if needed. So we're going to do that. Do a little bit of overkill, doing 8 damage to this. Play this as a top land, because sometimes you have to do that with this land. Not the end of the world if you have to. The good thing, this looks like the non-snow variation of Goblins, so that must mean they might be only running Shock as their primary removal spell. Which, if that's the case, we could probably safely cast Codie. Hope they're not running Artifact Removal or do 2 Shocks is pretty much our main hope here. Barbarian class. Oh, is this like a Delina variation? Okay, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, we're going to block the 2 here. If they have the Shock, they have the Shock. They did not. So now we get to show kind of like a... Oh, wait, we can't yet. We got to draw land. I was going to say... I forgot we don't have a land. Yeah, we'll cast Behold the Multiverse here. That's a bunch of land. It's better that we draw both of them, actually, to be frank. Pass the turn, see if our opponent draws into anything. So yeah, I'm expecting dice rolling shenanigans. They probably are playing stuff like the Ogre, potentially. Or maybe just Delina, which I could see a deck just with Delina, honestly. Here I'm going to block here because they could have drawn into the Shock, and I kind of want to prevent having shenanigans with that. So here, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. We have access to 5 mana, so I'm going to just cast Serpentine Curve here, see what we get for free. Krondrit's Command. Great. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to return target creature and shuffle some cards. So we're going to return the token, and then we're going to shuffle some value cards into our deck, such as Serpentine Curve, Magma Opus. I think I'm going to keep the Torrent Sculptor in the graveyard, because we could just bring it back with Balaget if we draw into it. And now we just have a 4/4 that we could block with, so... If our opponent shocks it, they shock it, but we do take out a problematic Goblin. Do they have the shock? No, they're running a Learn package. Okay, I was not suspecting that. That's cool. Okay, that's really cool. Okay, so we have access to technically 6 mana. Not enough for this, unfortunately, but... I think I am going to cast first day of class, because we have access to free green. So I'm going to do that to actually get the pest summonings. Cast the pest summonings, which then allows us to get just some hasty tokens. Then next turn, if Codie survives, we can RN's Epiphany Codie Storm, so... And like I said, I designed this deck that if Codie does get removed, we still have these backup threats such as Goldsmith Dragon and Retriever Phoenix, so... We'll see what our opponent plays here. Our opponent's thinking here. Ooh, Goblin Trashmaster. Yeah, we block. And now the question is, does our opponent use their Trashmaster here? Do they destroy the Codie? Yep. As stated before, we have a game plan for that, so we're going to play this land tapped. We're going to play a Gold Spawn, a Dragon. Swing in for 4. Generate a nice treasure token. And then we'll use the treasure to foretell. Hold these up as chump blockers. More goblins. There's a treasure vault. Well, I think we just get an extra turn here. Sure, let's actually cast the Retriever Phoenix. Let's go get a lesson. Let's go get a Containment Breach. We're probably not using it this game unless the opponent gets smart enough to destroy the Treasure Vault, which they... I think we got lethal, because here's what we do. We're going to play Magma Opus. We're going to split the 2 damage on the 2 Goblin tokens, as well as tap down the 2 Goblins. Doop. Boop. And we should be able to swing in for lethal. How does our opponent respond? And, well, swing in with the team. Game opponent. Bada beep. Bada boop. Yet again, another good first game that actually shows off the deck, which we didn't see any true polymorph shenanigans, but hopefully a later game can actually show off those shenanigans. Okay, our next opponent is Goju. Okay. You probably can't see the username until you see it right there because of that. Ooh, this hand is... The problem with this hand is we don't really have any untapped mana, so we literally are waiting to foretell on turn 3. But we do have a Codie. We can, lucky enough, maybe draw into one of our mountain islands and such, and then play this untapped. Worst case scenario, we're just going to have to play this untapped on turn 2 so we can foretell. Worst case scenario. Acquisition expert, eh? Sure, you can have... This one's actually hard. This is a really tricky one. I think it's going to be Hundreds command, because we can use Prismari command to ramp, potentially. And I think we cannot disregard that potential, so... There is a chance that our opponent's just playing discard shenanigans, and we might be in a pickle. No, looks like they're just playing mill. Okay, fair enough. Dimir Rogue seems to be the case. Okay, so I'm just going to be holding Multiverse here while they're tapped out. Perfect, that's what we wanted, and also we got some removal too if needed, so we're going to play this first untapped. Next turn, we're probably just going to Flameful of Sonata the Kiter. Friedel? Okay, somebody who is probably well-versed within D&D lore will probably know the proper pronunciation of this rogue's name, so I apologize in advance of the butchering. Okay, here we have the Retriever Phoenix. Sure, we're gonna learn inevitably, so you can have a Retriever Phoenix. And here, I think we do just play the Codie and see if it survives. Because it seems like our opponent's just playing a token-centric... Or not token. What am I saying? We're playing a token deck. They're playing a creature-oriented deck design, and I don't really see much removal yet from our opponent. Keyword is yet. Okay, you can have another Codie. We'll just block one of the 1-2. Ooh! We need to wait till we get some land, but that can actually be pretty hilarious. For now, though, I think here it's just going to be Prismari command. We're just going to... I think we just have to deal 2 and then create a treasure. So we're going to deal 2 to one of these, create a treasure token for us. We're also going to get a first day of class. We don't mind that, so we can cast the first day of class. Do we want to take the action and just retrieve the Retriever Phoenix? I think the answer is no for now, the keyword is. Because I think what I want to do is do our little pest summoning combo again, because that is pretty good to allow us to get some nice chump blockers. Helps us block the other rogues. We're not going to swing in. We're going to use these, as stated before, as blockers. Ah, so that's the deck design. You're going full-on rogue, eh? Okay. I can appreciate the opponent's design here. Sneaky, sneaky. Yeah, I think here we're just going to discard the Magma Opus to deal 8 damage to this little annoying hair on our side. And the reason why I didn't activate Codie here is because we don't have a 1-cost spell within our deck design, so it doesn't really make sense. But I will cast First Day of Class here just so we can get the flying and just swing in for 5. That may have been a little greedy, though, upon post-reflection. Oh, yeah, I forgot about you. Okay, that's not good. Okay, plan B.
My God, he's doing it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
Guess what? You have a Codie now. And yet again, I think we're going to have to save the chunk blockers here. Especially since we're at such a low life total. And the problem is, since our opponent played Rogue Class, and they sold 2 of our cards, our card, as stated before, our deck was a very heavy token emphasis, one could say, so we might be in a bit of a problem. Here, the only reason why I'm doing this is just so that we can draw a card that we can play, potentially. We did not, so we're just going to play this land. And honestly, we're just going to go into the air for aggro here. We're just waiting to either get a Valaged or, well, extra turns wouldn't hurt, so we're going to activate this.
It's rewind
Get our
time.
extra turn. Thank you very kindly, Codie. Give us a free spell of some... Oh, that is perfect. Thank you, Codie. So yeah, we're going to play Valaged Recovery. Return the true polymorph. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, there you are. We're going to see why that's important in about a minute. And then we get to our extra turn. We could just troll, but I think we do have a way to win the game here. So, we're going to change our 13-13 Fractal into a Flyer. Now you see the little true power of how true that Polymorph can be a finisher. So, we're going to swing in. Bada beep. Bada boop. Oh, whoops. Almost dropped the deck here. I got so excited. Codie, you made me so excited, you made me almost drop a deck.
Yeah, people say I have that effect.
Though, to be fair, that's also probably a possible result of me having a little bit of a crowded desk as my recording studio, but, yeah, you know. Okay, our next opponent is... Our opponent is MTG4. Interesting. Okay, this hand is not amazing, but we could either turn free Codie or a Prismari command, so we just hope we draw into a land and hope we didn't mana short ourselves. Let's see what shenanigans our opponent's playing. Okay. Good news is we do have a Flameful Sonata at the ready if needed. Is this mono red? Is it? We really don't know just yet. Ah, dragons, eh? Well, yeah, we really want to remove the dragon, so I'm going to discard the Quandrix command here since we don't have a green source. And we did get a land, which is nice. And just get rid of Magda before it becomes, problematic. Looks like just a mono-red deck. I'm going to test the bounds and see if a Codie survives here. Worst case scenario, no, it doesn't, but still, that makes us have to... That fishes out a removal from the opponent, which I don't mind, since we have a second Codie online, essentially. So yeah, our opponent's thinking here. They decide not to go for the attack. Fascinating. Okay. Here... We're not going to attack him. See if our opponent decides to shock. Because we know our opponent's playing the snow package, so they are probably playing cards like essentially the frost spell, essentially. Our opponent hasn't played it, so for here, we're just going to generate a treasure, deal 2 damage. This is interesting. We could draw more cards here, but I do think I want to make the bigger threat here. And if we can get into, like, a, Ooh, Delegate Recovery. Perfect. We're going to use that to return... We got the green, so I think I'm actually going to bring back Quandrit's command here. Use the mana from the treasure to just essentially foretell Behold the Multiverse to use for later. And let's pass the turn to our opponent. See what shenanigans they have a-cooking. There's Magda number 2. Well, let's see. We don't have enough mana to do this yet. So I think the play here is to activate this, but just play the Quandrits. Actually, no. We're going to do Behold the Multiverse, because that gives us an opportunity to get a free cost spell. But we still got the first air class, so... Not the end of the world. Do we want the land? Yeah, we want the land, so... That way then we can play this, reveal this. We'll play this for now. We have access to red, white, blue. Not enough for this, though. So, I think we'll just go with Environmental Sciences here. Foretell. And then just cast the Environmental Sciences. Go get a forest from our deck. Keep the Fractal as a chump blocker at the moment. And see if our opponent responds to Codie now. They're definitely a mono-red deck design. We're definitely seeing that right off the bat. But the question is, what's their game plan? Okay, are they going to make Magda unblockable is my guess? That's my guess. Yep. That's what they're gonna do. Create a treasure token. Sure. They have 1 mana floating, and they don't got anything to do with it, so we're gonna activate Codie, get ourselves an extra turn. Use that to cast Divide by 0, bounce into Magda, and our opponent's like, nope. Now that is a quick way to show the value of this deck. Splenderoni to the pepperoni. And that, y'all, is Codie's Token Fun. As you can see, this deck is actually a very versatile and a very fun deck to play. I've been having a blast with it. It's been fun to show off the games and such, and I hope you all had a lovely time watching as well. If you did, please like and subscribe. I should have the deck list down below if you want to download the list and play it on, like, pretty much on your own time if you have the cards. I hope you, even if you can't play the full deck, you learn some shenanigans of how to brew around Codie and have some fun with it. Nevertheless, thanks for everybody who enjoyed the video. I hope you all have a lovely day. As they say, hip hip hooray.